joining the session, and it was all good fortune. We missed today's notification that there'll be class by Bhakti Prem Maharaj. Otherwise, we would not have done it. But and we got latest update from Bhakti Prem Maharaj. So we have still 20 minutes or so. So we will read the question of mercy. So please raise hands. Those who wish to read, please raise your hands, and I will do the screen sharing, and we can begin. Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. So devotees, please raise your hand. Okay, Rani Prabhu, Preeti. Okay, so you start, and then maybe others will feel inspired. Otherwise, I'll read. So, Preeti, you can start. You're reading from the book.
I'll read from the book.
Okay, good. This is starting from when I woke up, my heart brimmed. 1 second. Just wait.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As I continued reading, I learned more and more about Krishna and his greatness. He was the supreme creator, proprietor, and controller. And I realized that the goal of my life was to surrender to him. I felt in my heart that I would no longer have to worry about anything. Krishna would take care of me in all respects. I was almost overwhelmed with relief, free from any anxiety or distress. Convinced that I had found my Guru, I could not wait to return to the temple. The next day, I went and asked Kundali Das if he knew where Srila Prabhupada was. After inquiring from other devotees, he told me that Prabhupada was in America and would not be back in India for a few months, probably not until October. He generally stayed in America during the summer and returned to India in the autumn. Looking forward to Srila Prabhupada's return, I decided to travel in the meantime to Bengal and visit the places where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, in the mood of Radharani, his eternal consort, had some 500 years earlier taken birth and engaged in his transcendental activities. I felt fortunate that I had been born so close by. First, I went to Mayapur, the place of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, just 130 kilometers from Calcutta. The evening I arrived, an arati was going on in the temple, and the large hall shook with the resounding beats of mridanga drums. The room was full of devotees, nearly all Westerners, dancing each in his or her own style, but all in rhythm with the kirtana. The scene was ecstatic, and everyone, even drenched in perspiration, appeared divine. After the arati, several of the devotees came over to speak with me, all very friendly. They arranged for my accommodation at the guest house and invited me to attend a Bhagavad Gita class that was just about to begin. The class was in a large conference room upstairs, led by a devotee named Raghav Pandit Das. The atmosphere was inspiring, all the bright young devotees listening with rapt attention. I felt like I was getting a glimpse of the spiritual world. Raghav Pandit seemed quite learned, and he spoke beautifully, explaining the importance of spiritual life, of understanding the futility of our materialistic endeavors, and the rewards of becoming absorbed in spiritual activities by surrendering to Krishna and engaging in his service. He said, we could experience the real joy for which we were always hankering. And Srila Prabhupada had created a perfect arrangement for all of us to achieve that ultimate perfection in the serene atmosphere of Mayapur and in the association of the Lord's devotees. Would you like me to continue, or someone else would like to read now? Hare
Someone else
Krishna.
could, yes, Hare Krishna, someone else could read. Just 1 second, yes. Uh, Now next was Ronnie Prabhu. Uh, this is Chandana Paul Mataji also. Yes, Chandana Paul Mataji, you can read, and then Ronnie Prabhu.
So it is from, yeah. I felt that Raghava Pandit was speaking directly to me. It was also appropriate to my situation. And I was impressed that a Westerner had so much knowledge about the Vedas and was quoting Sanskrit verses from the Bhagavad Gita as if he knew the entire scripture by heart. After class, we all sat conversing. Not many people visited Mayapur in those days, and the devotees were curious about what had brought me there. They were very encouraging and requested that I stay and become a devotee, or at least give it a try. One of the brahmacharis, the single young male devotees, brought in a large plate of sweets and other delicacies and served all the devotees as they sat on the floor eating off leaf plates. The food was Mahaprasad, I was told, prasad that had come directly from the deities. I had never tasted anything so delicious. Even though the physical facilities in Mayapur were quite basic, I felt very much at home. I arose early the next morning, well before sunrise, and attended Mangala Arati. Afterwards, I sat with the devotees and chanted japa for the first time. I had been familiar with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra since childhood. I had heard it sung and had joined many kirtans. And Anirdeshya Vapu had explained its spiritual significance to me in Calcutta. But I had never chanted quietly, counting my rounds on beats. At 7, we all participated in Shringar Arati, greeting the deities. Then we worshipped Srila Prabhupada in Guru Puja. And afterwards, we gathered in the upstairs room for class. I was told that a sannyasi, a senior male renounced devotee, was going to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, the most important Vaishnava scripture which Srila Prabhupada had translated and on which he had written extensive commentary. In the room, a handsome young American on an elevated seat sang Jai Radha Madhava. I had never heard the prayer, but I had learned that the temple deities were named Sri Sri Radha Madhava. And now I saw that there was a link between Srimad Bhagavatam and the deities. It sounded amazing, sublime. The young sannyasi, like the devotee giving class the previous evening, was clearly knowledgeable, and he recited Sanskrit shlokas, verses, fluently and with authority. It was the first time I had experienced Westerners having such command of the Vedic scriptures. I was both awestruck and painfully aware of my inadequacy in the subject. And I was also beginning to comprehend Srila Prabhupada's profound influence on his disciples. After class, the sannyasi greeted me with a smile and introduced himself as Satadhanya Swami. He had already heard about me, he said, and he expressed his pleasure in meeting me and joined the others in requesting that I remain with the devotees and become one myself. All the warm invitations, along with the wonderful spiritual atmosphere, attracted me greatly. Since I had already made up my mind to surrender to Srila Prabhupada, I thought, why not commit myself and stay? It was not difficult. I just went to the barber and had my head shaved, purchased a dhoti and kurta set, took a bath in the Ganga, threw away my old clothes and put on the new ones. When I returned to the temple, everyone was surprised and delighted at my transformation. The first to see me was Pandu Dasa, a talented painter from America whom I had befriended the previous evening. Hey, he reclaimed, you shaved up and became a devotee. But then he added, no, you have always been a devotee. The Mayapur temple and community were managed by two co-directors, Jayapataka Swami and Bhavananda Goswami, both from America. Jayapataka Swami was quite young, Bhavananda somewhat older. I was introduced to them in an office where they sat side by side on a mattress on the floor, surrounded by devotees. After a brief initial exchange, they gave me a form to fill out, asking my name, address, and other details. One point on the form especially impressed me, that I should never act in such a way that would bring dishonor or disgrace to Srila Prabhupada. That became deeply ingrained in my heart. Next, I was introduced to a young Italian brahmachari named Madhu Sevita Dasa, who served as the temple commander. Like a military commander, he appeared grave and stern, which I thought might be fitting. He was responsible for assigning services to devotees, and the first service he gave me was to help cook khichdi, a mix of grains, dal, and vegetables that was distributed every afternoon to local villagers as part of a food distribution program.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. We'll give turn to other devotees. I hope you don't mind, Mataji.
No, not at all, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Yes. Ronnie Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Okay, Prabhuji. You have to share the screen. Yeah. When I went to the kitchen and reported to the elderly Bengali devotee in charge of cooking, he examined me from head to toe. I could tell he was not impressed. He took me out back and pointed to a pile of firewood, directed me to bring the wood to the kitchen, and left. He had not told me how much to bring, so I just kept carrying one armful of wood after another, and by the time he returned, half the kitchen was filled. He gave me a disapproving, disgusted look and told me to take most of the wood back to the pile. Then he led me to the storeroom, asked me to bring bags of rice and dal to the kitchen, and again disappeared. The bag must have weighed 100 kilos each. There was no way I could. The bag must have weighed 100 kilos each. There was no way I could pick them up, let alone carry them to the kitchen. So I got hold of a bag and started to drag it across the floor. But along the way, it became stuck between the staircase and a pillar. I pulled it as hard as I could to dislodge it, but it would not budge. And when I gave it one last heave, the bag broke and dal scattered all over the floor. Just then, of course, the managing devotee returned. When he saw the mess I had made, he became so exasperated that he did not say a thing. He just gave me that look again, letting me know without words that he thought I was the most useless person he had ever met. My fumbling attempt at service, I felt, had caused has caused only disappointment to the devotees. That was the beginning of my spiritual life in Mayapur. The next day, I was assigned to go out into a field with a few other devotees and cut the grass. Finally, I thought a service I could execute without trouble. But when Bhavananda Maharaj heard what I had been assigned to do, he got upset and chastised Madhusevita for engaging me in such a menial task. Madhusevita came to me and apologized. He told me that there was a practice that when someone joined the temple, he was given various tough jobs to test his sincerity. I said that I actually liked the idea. I was starting my new life and I was prepared to accept any service I was given. It was one of my first lessons in Krishna consciousness, that our life is meant for serving and pleasing Krishna. Our understanding lasted only so long, however, and one afternoon, when Madhusevita found me reading in the library, he ordered me to go out and do something. I knew that everyone was allowed to take some rest in the afternoon. So I told him that I was reading and would prefer to continue to do so. If he could not find anyone for the work, I would do it later. Perhaps no one had ever responded to Madhusevita in such a way, especially a newcomer. He flared up, calling me the most arrogant person ever. I did not argue, but walked right up to Bhavananda Maharaj's room and told him about how I had been treated. Bhavananda immediately went down and again chastised Madhusevita, who became embarrassed and said that Shatadhanya Swami had told him to keep me constantly engaged so that I wouldn't have any time to slip into Maya. The illusory aspect of the Lord's energies that takes one away from him. So then Bhavananda and Shatadhanya and so then Bhavananda called Shatadhanya and blasted him too, asking whether he thought he was running a Nazi concentration camp. From then on, things went more smoothly. The devotees all seemed favorably disposed towards me. I was getting closer with all of them, and Madhusevita and I were becoming good friends. He was a sincere and serious devotee with an upright and straightforward manner, and he did not waste any time. His commitment to Srila Prabhupada was obvious, and he was completely focused on his service. Initially, Bhavananda Goswami seemed quite exalted and unapproachable, but in time I became close with him as well. He was impressive, vibrant personality, and with his powerful build and booming voice, he was a natural leader who inspired spontaneous admiration and respect. He was older than most of the other devotees, and whereas most had rather bohemian and carefree backgrounds, he had been a well established and a prominent figure in New York fashion and film. Just a brief encounter with Srila Prabhupada had led him to surrender and changed his life. I still did not have a steady service, so devotees from
Hare
different.
Krishna. Prabhu, let's give a chance,
Yeah,
one more chance to read. Who was there? Can you see? Yes,
yeah.
Neha Bhamra Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So I'll start reading. I still did not have a steady service, so devotees from different departments would invite me to serve with them. Satvika Dasa, a young Italian who took care of the cows in the Goshala, the cow barn, invited me to join him. I loved the idea, but I also knew that caring for the cows was one of the most coveted services. So I asked Bhavananda Maharaj, but he said that I was not really meant for that kind of service. I was disappointed, but I accepted his decision. Then Hiranyangarbha Dasa, the head of the Gurukul, the children's school, and his assistant Nadia Dasa invited me to come teach with them. Again, I went to Bhavananda Maharaj and requested the posting, but again he said that the service was not right for me, and again I was disappointed. Teaching, I thought, was the best service for me, but he considered me unqualified for it. My pride was wounded, and I protested. Do you think I am good for nothing? Any service that I am proposing, you think I am unfit for it? It is not a matter of your qualification, Maharaj shot back. When you see that the students are a bunch of village kids who pass urine in their beds and that the classroom stinks, I am afraid your idealistic dream will be shattered. I had a roommate, Tirtha Padadasa, an extremely serious young American devotee. He never wasted a minute. If he had any free time, he would read Srila Prabhupada's books, and he took prasad only after he had finished chanting his prescribed 16 rounds of the Mahamantra, which took almost 2 hours. I was glad to be rooming with such a committed devotee. My biggest challenge was getting up early every morning. At home, I rarely got up before 8, but in Mayapur, everyone was expected to rise before 4 o'clock and attend Mangla Aarti at 4:30. Tirthapada got up every day by 3:30 and would wake me up before going to bathe. When he returned to the room, he would often find me still lying in bed and have to urge me to get up. I would beg him to let me sleep just a little longer, but he would grab the end of my mattress and lift it with me still on it, and I would have to jump out to avoid falling on the floor, both of us laughing all the while. Tirthapada and his brother had joined ISKCON together, but his brother had recently left the movement, and he was sad about that. He was very affectionate with me, as if he were trying to recover his lost brother by fixing me up in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Anita Mataji, would you like to read? It's Anita Mataji's birthday today. She can. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Wish you very happy birthday, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, I will do the screen share.
I have book, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji. No.
Life in Mayapur was very simple in those days. Everyone, irrespective of age, nationality, or position, attended Mangla Aarti, chanting their rounds in the temple room, and then attended Shringar Aarti, Guru Puja, and Srimad Bhagavatam class. We were all engaged in service throughout the day, except when the afternoons got too hot, in which case we would stay indoors and read from Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada's summary study of the Bhagavatam 10th canto. In the evening, we would attend Sandhya Aarti and Bhagavad Gita class, and after Prasad, we would often sit up late into the night sharing our experiences and realizations in Krishna consciousness. After the morning Bhagavatam class, we would have a simple breakfast of khichdi and a vegetable preparation. For a time after I arrived, the next meal wasn't until 5 p.m. But at some point, Bhavananda Maharaj saw that the gap between meals was too long and arranged for a lunch to be served at 1:30, when everyone would sit together on the veranda of the kitchen for vegetables, dal, and fresh hot chapatis, a sumptuous meal that felt like a real luxury. There were several excellent female cooks, including Kishori Vallabh Dasi and Didima, as elderly widow from a high-class Bengali family. All the sweets of the deities were made by Vrindavan Vilasini Dasi, a South African devotee who had settled in Mayapur and mastered the art of preparing Indian sweets, which were usually offered before Mangla Aarti and at night before the deities were put to rest. The most delicious food was the Mahaprasad from the evening offering. After being offered to the deities, it was transferred to a large plate and brought to the three resident sannyasis, Jayapataka Maharaj, Bhavananda Maharaj, and Satadhanya Maharaj. Once they were served, the plate would be brought down to the conference room by Madhu Sevita Das and distributed to the rest of us, who after the Gita class would circle around, eagerly awaiting our shares. One evening, the Mahaprasad did not arrive. After waiting for what seemed like a very long time, we went upstairs to investigate. On the top floor, we found Madhu Sevita sitting on the back balcony, helping himself. We all had a hearty laugh, and after that, he always brought the plate down immediately after the sannyasis were served. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. No, Mataji. It is 7 o'clock, so we'll finish. We have the Bhagavad class then. So thank you so much, devotees. By all your presence, we could hear Bhakti Prem Maharaj class also, and we could hear some very nectarine pastimes of Guru Maharaj, picking up rice bags or taking the boots. Also, this nice pastime of missing Mahaprasadam. I wish this is a very nice way to remain in touch with our Guru Maharaj. A lot of time, of course, the Vapu association is very important, but the more we get attached to the Vani association, then we find that the connection is far more solid, and we can, like Prabhupada said, that I can never be separate from my Guru Maharaj. So similarly, by getting attached to the Vani of our spiritual master, we can also be eternally attached to the lotus feet of our spiritual master. So thank you so very much. Krishna willing, we'll have the class tomorrow as well. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Dev Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Parshati Desha Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Raghudev Ki Jai Hare Krishna.